You want to say the Jayadvani? Short. Either of you who have the desire to do it. Short.
Jai Shishi Guru Gurundam Hari Shishi Bhagavan Bihari Juki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Shishiman Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Shishiman Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Shishiman Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Shishiman Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tarasata Shishiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Paramahansa Srila Gokishodas Bhavaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Satchidananda Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Nityarila Pavishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gaudija Vedanta Charya Srila Baladevi Bhushan Prabhu Ki Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Srila Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Chara Ki Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sri Damodar Roy Ramananda Shri Gopal Shri Ravana Ki Jai Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Namesaka Holy Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopi Govardhan Dvara Saranamaka Shri Vraj Bangala Ki Jai Shri Shamakund Radhakund Yamuna Bhagatalsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Yogamaya Pranavasi Ki Jai Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhaja Sudasan Shankaju Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Chaitra Ki Jai Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bol.
Today is Advaita Saptami, when Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu appeared within this world. So this is a very important day for all of us. We read some of the chapter 6 this morning, or this midday session that we had. And we're going to try to complete that chapter this evening. It's about 110 verses total, but we'll read. There's not so many purports for most of the later part. In the beginning part, you know, the purport that we began to read today, that's one of the longest purports of Prabhupada's in the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's like 10 pages long. And it's describing Sri Advaita Acharya's ontological position, right, in relationship with Karana Dakashai Vishnu, Garbha Dakashai Vishnu, and how Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Lord himself, the creator of all the universes. So that tattva is put forward in the beginning. But for this latter part of the chapter, it's a very amazing and wonderful presentation that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving. Very complete picture of how even the incarnations of the Lord, even the all-powerful infinite personalities, they want to be servants of Krishna. And especially in this case, servants of Lord Chaitanya. And that's what we're going to be reading tonight. How, beginning with Advaita Acharya, and then talking about Lord Nityananda, then even talking about Nanda Maharaj and all the different personalities in Braj, including Srimati Radhika, and how the mood of servitude, Dasya Bhav, is the fundamental part, and that's through that they relish. They are entitled to relish Krishna Prem. Whatever rasa that they have with the Lord, but the foundation of that is what? Servitude. And it is through that mood of service. So this is now going to be very beautifully depicted in terms of Advaita Acharya Prabhu's relationship with Lord Chaitanya, although he's treated by Lord Chaitanya as a superior, right? And he's a disciple of Madhavendra Puripad. And Lord Chaitanya always worships his lotus feet. But he desires to only be a servant of Lord Chaitanya. So we'll read about that. It's an exciting topic, no?
Yes.
Yes. Gurve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Guruna Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Chishe Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Prema Ananda Pradayane Kalo Kalamashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I first of all offer my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansas Tatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Then Nitya Lila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansas Tatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. And Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansas Tatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So we left off this morning in the section of very deep Tattva Siddhanta, right? So we've exercised our tiny little brains a little bit on the infinite, inconceivable position of Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu. So, I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit on that discussion of Sankhya philosophy and material cause and ingredient cause and upadhan and nimitta and all of that. Even though it's very, very interesting on its own, it's a very fascinating subject matter to study. So, Lord Vishnu is kind of summarizing all of that discussion. Lord Vishnu, in his efficient aspect, glances over the material energy, and Sri Advaita, as the material cause, creates the material world. He's the creator. Although the Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the world never arises from dead matter. The Lord infuses the material ingredients with his own creative potency. Then by the power of the Lord, creation takes place. And in the form of Advaita, he infuses the material ingredients with creative energy. Therefore, Advaita is the original cause of creation. Sri Advaita Acharya is the creator of millions and millions of universes. And by his expansions, as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he maintains each and every universe. Sri Advaita is the principal limb, anga, of Narayan. And Srimad Bhagavatam speaks of this, in this term of limb, anga, as a amsha, as a plenary portion of the Lord. Then he quotes the verse spoken by Lord Brahma to Krishna in the 14th chapter, Brahma's prayers. And he says, Lord Brahma is telling, O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not, therefore, my father, Narayan? Narayan refers to one whose abode is in the water, born from Nara, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And that Narayan is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental. They are absolute, and they are not creations of Maya. This verse describes that the limbs and the plenary portions of the Lord are all spiritual. They have no relationship with the material energy. Why has Sri Advaita been called a limb, meaning an anga, and not called a part, an amsha? The reason is that limb implies greater intimacy. Sri Advaita, who is a reservoir of virtues, is the main limb of Mahavishnu. His full name is Advaita, for he is identical in all respects with that Lord. As he had formerly created all the universes, now he descended to introduce the path of bhakti. He delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Since he has no other occupation than to teach devotional service, his name is Advaita Acharya. He is the spiritual master of all devotees, and he is the most revered personality in the world. By a combination of these two names, his name is Advaita Acharya. Since he is a limb or a part of the lotus-eyed Supreme Lord, he also bears the name Kamalaksha. because the Supreme Lord has lotus eyes. And since he's apart, he bears the name Kamalaksha. That was his birth name, we said this morning. And his associates, they have the same bodily features as the Lord. They all have 4 arms, and they are dressed in yellow garments like Narayan. Sri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of the Supreme Lord. His truths, his tattvas, his name, and his attributes, they are all ascharya, full of wonder. Now begins that section. He worshipped Krishna with tulsi leaves and water of the Ganges, and he called for him in a loud voice. You want to hear that verse? It says, Jahara tulsi jale, Jahara hunkare. Like I was saying this morning. Hunkar. Svagana sahite chaitanyara avatari. Thus Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth. Why? Because he worshipped with tulsi leaves and water of the Ganga and called out in a loud voice. So thus Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth, accompanied by his personal associates. It is through him, Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement. And it is through him that he delivered the world. The glory and attributes of Advaita Acharya are unlimited. How can the insignificant living entities fathom them? Sri Advaita Acharya is a principal limb of Lord Chaitanya. And another limb of the Lord is Nityananda Prabhu. All the devotees headed by Srivas are his smaller limbs. They are like his hands, his face, and his eyes, and his disc, and other weapons. All the devotees are. So with all of them, Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes, and with them he spread his mission. Now, thinking that he, Sri Advaita Acharya, is a disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya obeys him, respecting him as his spiritual master. To maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down at the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Sri Advaita Acharya, however, here's the big however, he considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master, and he thinks of himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He forgets himself in the joy of that conception, and he teaches all living entities, you are servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The conception of servitude to Sri Krishna, it generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. That's actually a verse that he just quoted, well, paraphrased from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, he says, Advaita Acharya says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted in this emotion of servitude. The most beloved goddess of fortune resides on the chest of Sri Krishna, yet she too, earnestly praying, begs for the joy of service at his feet. All the associates of Lord Krishna, such as Brahma, Shiva, Narad, Shuk, Sanatan Kumar, they are very pleased in the sentiment of servitude. I'm not reading the Bengali, but the Bengali is so tasteful here. Sri Nityananda, the wandering mendicant, is the foremost of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. He became mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya. Srivas, Haridas, Ramdas, Gadadhar, Murari, Mukunda, Chandrasekhar, and Vakeshwara are all glorious, and they are all learned scholars. But the sentiment of servitude to Lord Chaitanya makes them mad in ecstasy. Thus they dance, sing, and laugh like madmen, and they instruct everyone, just be loving servants of Lord Chaitanya. What are those Bengali words? How Chaitanya Das, just be loving servants of Lord Chaitanya. Sri Advaita Acharya thinks, Lord Chaitanya considers me his spiritual master, yet I feel myself to be only his servant. Love for Krishna has this one unique effect. It imbues superiors, equals, and inferiors with the spirit of service to Lord Krishna. For evidence, please listen to the examples described in the revealed scriptures, which are corroborated by the realization of great souls. So we have two pramans here. What's in the Shastra and what's the realization of all the great souls. Now he makes his point. Krishnadas Kaviraj. Although no one is a more respected elder for Krishna than who? Nanda Maharaj. In all of Braja, no one else. No one is more respected elder for Krishna than Nanda Maharaj in Braj, who in transcendental paternal love has no knowledge that his son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, ecstatic love makes him, what to speak of others, feel himself to be a servant of Lord Krishna. Where did that happen? Where and when? That his love makes him actually speak like this. He too prays for attachment and devotion to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, as the words from his own mouth give evidence. You remember where and when? Where did he profess or confess this internal deep mood of his?
Is it the Uddhava?
Yes. Yes. Here he's quoting those verses. First he's telling in Bengali, and then he quotes two verses. My dear Uddhav, please hear me. In truth. And when did he say this to Uddhava?
Uddhava was trying to console him.
No. At the end of the whole pastime, before he left to go back to Mathura. So he said, my dear Uddhav, please hear me. In truth, Krishna is my son. But even if you think that he is God, I would still bear toward him my own feelings for my son. May my mind be attached to your Lord Krishna. Then he says, Manaso vritayo nasyu Krishna padam bhujashraya vacho vidyayanir namnam kayas tat pravanadishu. May our minds be attached to the lotus feet of your Lord Krishna. May our tongues chant his holy names, and may our bodies lie prostrate before him. Karmabir brahmyamananam yatra kvapishvarechaya mangala charitayar danaya ratirna Krishna Ishware. Wherever we wander, in the material universe, under the influence of karma, by the will of the Lord, may our auspicious activities cause our attraction to Lord Krishna to increase. That's his final statement.
He actually calls him Lord Krishna.
No. No, this is an English translation. The actual Sanskrit, he's not calling him Lord Krishna. But the point has already been made, you know. Now, the next verse is beginning to go now in the direction of describing how this mood is in every single devotee, top to bottom. Lord Krishna's friends in Vrindavan, headed by Sri Dama, they have pure fraternal affection for Lord Krishna, and they have no idea of his opulences. And although they fight with him, they climb upon his shoulders, they worship his lotus feet in a spirit of servitude. Do we not see that in those pastimes? Yes, they're being very intimate, but they always worship his lotus feet in the mood of what? Dasya. Then he quotes the verse from 10th Canto. Some of the friends of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, massaged his feet, and others whose sinful reactions had been destroyed, they fanned him with hand-held fans. We have that painting, right? In the Krishna book. Then, Kaviraj Goswami says, even the beloved girlfriends of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, the gopis, the dust of whose feet was desired by Sri Uddhav, and who are more dear to Krishna than anyone else, they regard themselves as Krishna's maidservants. And here's their statement. This is in connection with the rasa dance. When the gopis disappeared, when Krishna disappeared from his companions in the course of dancing, the gopis sang like this in separation from Krishna. This is from Gopi Geet. Vrajajanartihan virayoshitam nijajanasmaya dvamshanasmita bhajasake bhavat kinkarismano jalaruhananam charudarshaya. O Lord, remover of the afflictions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, O hero of all women, O Lord, who destroy the pride of your devotees by your sweet, gentle smile. O friend, we are your maid servants. Please fulfill our desires and show us your attractive lotus face. O Uddhav, there's another verse. O Uddhav, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. That's when they first met Uddhav, after he came the night before, and then they met. And they say to him, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs and his friends, the cowherd boys? O great soul, does he ever talk about us, his maidservants? When will he lay on our heads his aguru-scented hand? Now Kaviraj Goswami moves on. What to speak of the other gopis? Even Sri Radhika, who in every respect is the most elevated of them all, and who has bound Sri Krishna forever by her loving attributes, serves his feet as his maid servant. And here's her statement from also Rasa Dance. You'll hear this and remember, you'll be familiar with this verse. Hey Nata Ramana Preshta Kvasi Mahabhuja Dasyaste Kripanaya Me Sake Darshaya Sannidhim. O my Lord. This verse is quoted when the Rasa dance was going on in full swing. Krishna left all the gopis and took only Srimati Radharani with him. And at that time, all the gopis lamented, and Srimati Radharani, being proud of her position, requested Krishna to carry her wherever he liked. Then Krishna immediately disappeared from the scene, and Srimati Radhika began to lament. And this is her statement. O my Lord, O my husband, because she's saying, Hey Nata, my Lord, O Ramana Preshta, O my husband, O my dear one, O mighty armed Lord, Mahabhuja, Kvasi, Kvasi, where are you? Where are you? O my friend, Sake, reveal yourself to your maidservant, who is very much aggrieved by your absence. Dasyas te kripanaya me. Dasya, I am your servant, your maidservant. Kripanaya, and I'm very much aggrieved by your absence. Sake darshaya sannidhim. Please show yourself near to me. So, then, he says, in Dwarkadam, all the queens, headed by Rukmini, they also consider themselves maidservants of Lord Krishna. Then he quotes a verse, when Jarasandha and other kings, bows and arrows upraised, stood ready to deliver me in charity to Shishupal. Who's speaking? Rukmini. Then he forcibly took me from their midst, as a lion takes its share of goats and sheep. The dust of his lotus feet is therefore the crown of unconquerable soldiers. May those lotus feet, which are the shelter of the goddess of fortune, be the object of my worship. Knowing me to be performing austerities with the desire to touch his feet, he came with his friend Arjuna, and he accepted my hand. Yet I am but a maid servant, engaged in sweeping the floor of the house of Krishna. Through austerity and through renunciation of all attachments, we have become maid servants in the home of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is satisfied in himself. So then, after quoting those verses from Rukmini, he says, what to speak of others? Even Lord Baladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of emotions like pure friendship and paternal love. He also considers himself a servant of Lord Krishna. Indeed, who is there who does not have this conception of being a servant of Lord Krishna? He who is Shesha, Sankarshan, with his thousands of mouths, serves Sri Krishna by assuming 10 forms. Rudra, who is an expansion of Sadashiv, and who appears in unlimited universes, and is also a guna avatar, qualitative incarnation, and is the ornament of all the demigods in the endless universes. He also desires only to be a servant of Lord Krishna. Sri Sadashiv always says, I am a servant of Lord Krishna. How does he say that? He says, Mui Krishna Das. Mui Krishna Das. So, intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna, he, Sadashiv, becomes overwhelmed and incessantly dances without clothing. And he sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. Why does he do that? Because he's intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna. All the emotions, whether those of father, mother, teacher, or friend, are full of sentiments of servitude. That is the nature of love of Krishna. Krishna Premer Swabhav. It is the swabhav, the nature of Krishna Prem. Dasya bhav. Lord Krishna, the one master and the Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Right? Any arguments in this regard? He's the one master and the Lord of the universe. So he is worthy of being served by everyone. Indeed, everyone is but a servant of his servants. That same Lord Krishna has descended as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, therefore, is his servant. Some accept him, whereas others do not. Yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. Then the next verse is one of my favorites. It's sung as Advaita Acharya is dancing. And he's singing this following. He says, Chaitanya Das Mui Chaitanya Das Chaitanya Das Mui Tara Das Eradas. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya and a servant of his servants. That's Advaita Acharya. Saying this, Advaita Prabhu dances and loudly sings. And then at the next moment, he quietly sits down. The source of the sentiment of service, of servitude, is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansions who follow him, they are all influenced by that ecstasy. So, what is the tattva here? The source of all Dasya Bhav and is Lord Balaram. And the plenary expansions who follow him, that means everyone, all of the expansions, they're all influenced by that ecstasy that he tastes. So he is the source of the sentiment of servitude, Dasya Bhav. Lord Sankarshan, who is one of his incarnations, always considers himself a devotee. In another of his incarnations, Lakshman, who is very beautiful and opulent, always serves Lord Ram. The Vishnu who lies on the causal ocean is an incarnation of Lord Sankarshan, and accordingly, the emotion of being a devotee is always present in his heart. Advaita Acharya is a separate expansion of him. Of who? Sankarshan, Mahasankarshan. He always engages in devotional service with his thoughts, his words, and his actions. By his words, he declares, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And thus, with his mind, he always thinks, I am his devotee. With his body, he worshipped the Lord by offering Ganga water and Tulsi leaves, and by preaching devotional service, he delivered the entire universe. Shesh Sankarshan, who holds all the planets on his heads, he expands himself in different bodies to render service to Lord Krishna. These are all incarnations of Lord Krishna. Yet, we always find that they act as devotees. Now, this is very nice what comes next. The scriptures call them incarnations as devotees. All of them. They're called Bhakta Avatar. And the position of being such an incarnation is above all others. Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and all others are his parts and partial incarnations. We find that the whole and the part, they behave as superior and inferior. The source of all incarnations has the emotions of a superior when he considers himself the master. And he has the emotions of an inferior when he considers himself a devotee. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna. For the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. And in this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence to prove this point. First of all, he quotes the verse spoken by Krishna to Uddhava from the 11th canto. Krishna says, "Na tata me priyatama atman yonir na shankaraha na cha sankarshano na shrir naivatma cha yata bhavan." O Uddhav, neither Brahma, nor Shankar, nor Sankarshan, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you. You familiar with that verse? Srila Sridhar Maharaj quoted this verse when he's explaining the supreme position of the gopis. Because below Braj, this is Krishna's statement, no one is as dear to me. Right? Below Braj, no one is as dear to me as you, Uddhava. But then what does Uddhava say? So he used, actually Srila Sridhar Maharaj used this in a somewhat of a debate with one man in South India. It's in his short biography. You know, and he proves this fact, that no one is greater than the residents of Braj, and amongst them, the gopis, and amongst them, Srimati Radhika. Because Uddhava, who is celebrated by Lord Krishna himself, telling him directly, no one is as dear to me as you. So that's why he sent Uddhav to Vrindavan, so that he could be educated. And then at that point, he just prayed to become a bush, to become a creeper, to become leaves. So, this is being quoted in relation to the supreme position and how Lord Krishna considers the position of being a devotee higher than himself. Now, the sweetness of Lord Krishna, here's the point, the sweetness of Lord Krishna. What's that called? Krishna samye nahetar madhurya asvadan. Madhurya asvadana. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through what? The sentiment of servitude. Servitude. That's how it's tasted. Without that, it's not tasted. It doesn't matter who it is. Right? We've just heard all of this. All of the explanation, whether it's Krishna's expansions, whether it's his most intimate associate, no one tastes the sweetness without bhakta bhav. Without that mood. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. Madhurya charvan. Charvan means chewing. Chewing the sweetness. Bhakta bhav. So, the conclusion of the revealed scriptures is also the realization of experienced devotees. Fools and rascals, however, cannot understand the opulences of devotional emotions. Baladev, Lakshman, Advaitacharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Shesha, Lord Sankarshan taste the nectarine mellows of the transcendental bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and his servants. That's how they taste it. They are all mad with that happiness, and they know nothing else. What to speak of others? Is there something more? Yes. Even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. We know about that, don't we? He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of a devotee. Therefore, Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee, and he descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee. I have formerly explained this conclusion in the previous chapters. All the incarnations are entitled. Get that word? They're entitled to the emotions of devotees. There is no higher bliss than this. The original Bhakta avatar is Sankarshan. Sri Advaita is counted among such incarnations. The glories of Sri Advaita Acharya are boundless, for his sincere vibrations brought about Lord Chaitanya's descent upon this earth. He liberated the universe by preaching Samkirtan, and thus the people of the world received the treasure of love of Godhead through the mercy of Sri Advaita. Who can describe the unlimited glories of Advaita Acharya? I write here as much as I have known from great authorities. I offer my obeisances 10 million times to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. Please do not take offense at this. Your glories are as fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Speaking of its measure is a great offense indeed. All glories to Sri Advaita Acharya. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the superior Lord Nityananda. Thus, in 2 verses, I have described the truth concerning Advaita Acharya. Now, O devotees, please hear about the 5 truths. Pancha Tattva. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Gaur Prema Anande. Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai.
One devotee it touched me very much. He said, even though he's the highest conception of Godhead, Krishna doesn't want servants, he wants friends.
Yeah. He wants friends, but here we're learning that he wants to become a servant. He has the most intimate relationships with his devotees. But yet we just heard how every single one, even up to Srimati Radhika, have the mood of Dasya Bhav. That's how they taste their ecstatic, loving relationship with him. Without the Dasya Bhav there, no, it's impossible. They cannot. Everything is on the foundation of Dasya. Everything. We just had it proven to us amply, right? And we also had it proven that all of them desire this. They're all desiring this. And it's not limited just to his associates, but even his own expansions. They all desire this. And what to speak of, even Lord Balaram, who's the source of all the incarnations. Oh, he wants servitude, mood of servitude. And then we come to even Krishna himself. He wants to taste his own sweetness, and there's only one way. He tried, as Krishnadas just said. And that's also in the very beginning chapters. especially the 4th chapter of Adi Leela. He's describing there how Krishna considers, I have these 3 desires. But how can I attain this? I see Srimati Radhika's praying. How can I attain this? And he tries with his mind. His mind races. And when Krishna's mind races, he covers everything. But he came up with no other conclusion than what? I have to become her. I have to take her bhavs, her moods, bhav and kanti, and her golden color, right? So that's why bhakta avatars, the Panchatattva are all bhakta avatars, you know, incarnations of devotees. And there's no higher position than this. Krishna proved it when he became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No higher position than this. It's the pinnacle, the acme, the ultimate attainment, desirable attainment. So we, tiny little jivas who think that we're the enjoyers, we just have to make that shift. Every single moment, every single day of our life, starting with Sri Guru. I am the servant of my Guru. I have no independence. I have no separate interest. I am his servant. And that's the gateway. That's the gateway to entering into pure Shuddha Bhakti. Without the assistance of the pure devotees of the Lord, it's impossible. Right? And what is their mood? Did we not amply see that in Srila Prabhupada? Anybody that, even now, they take the next few years of their life to study Prabhupada's books, and especially to study his conversations, to study his letters, to study his interactions, and how his mood was always so humble as servant. Isn't it? And all the pure devotees are like this. They're so supremely humble in the mood of service. So, yes, today was a successful day because we heard Kaviraj Goswami's glorification of Advaita Charya. And that opens up for us the whole rest of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat, and all the descriptions of Advaita Charya's service and activities and relationship with Mahaprabhu and everything. And especially, well, not especially, it's all especially, from his childhood. Remember when Advaita Charya was teaching his school and Nimai was sent from Mother Sachi to go and bring Vishwarup, right? And then when he appeared and to call Vishwarup, Advaita Charya, his eyes met his eyes, and he was spellbound by his beauty, right? And then Nimai looked at him as if to say, you don't recognize who I am? You called me. Those kind of relationships. And as he grew, even though he was a boy, all felt this mood of such loving affection and attraction, and even he became mischievous, and even he became so rough in his dealings, like with Kolavecha Sridhar. But Kolavecha Sridhar's heart was just completely bound by those dealings. He would steal from him, and Kolavecha was so poor, you know.
And he got his reward.
Oh, he sure did. Yeah. Not only that, but when Mahaprabhu was calling his devotees to give them Krishna Prem, that special section when he's calling Sridhar. And Sridhar was always just so humble and self-deprecating. But he gave him Prem and he glorified him amongst the devotees. And he gave him any benediction that he would desire. Take a benediction. But what did he desire? Only more devotion to you. So, you know, we're introduced to the term that Prabhupada made so famous, devotional service. That made an impression on me. Because coming from a Christian background, you hear that we're all supposed to be servants of God, right? But here's God. And what's your relationship with God? Jiver Swarupa Hoy, Krishner Nityadas. Spoken by Mahaprabhu himself. So there's no one, like there's that other verse also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu says, Ekala Ishwar Krishna. What does that mean?
Krishna is the only
Ishwar.
Ishwar.
He's the only Ishwar. Ekala Ishwar Krishna. He is the only Ishwar. What does Ishwar mean? Controller. Lord, Master, Controller. He's the only one. And then, Arsab. You know what that means in Bengali? Arsab means, and all others. All others. Arsab, Britya. Servants. That's very nice. I forget exactly where that is, but it's in Mahaprabhu's teachings, stating this fact. There is only one Ishwar, and that's Krishna. And now we just heard about that, right? Because every single other incarnation and all expansions and all jivas and everyone, they're Britya, servant. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. What's the point?
Everyone is a servant. Krishna is the supreme.
Yes. Ete Chamsa Kala Pungsa. Because in that chapter, that's chapter 3 of the first canto, it's in the end of it, after all the different incarnations have been listed. And there, Sutta Goswami is saying that Ete Cha'angsa Kala Pungsa. All these incarnations and all these expansions that have just been mentioned, they are in one of these two categories, Amsa or Kala. So Kala, they give that plenary portion, that term. It means an Amsha of an Amsha, right? So they're Kala. So therefore, he's saying, all these, Ete, all these incarnations, Chamsa Kala Pungsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. But Krishna is himself Bhagavan. Yeah. So, Krishna's position is supreme. Bhagavatam is promoting that tattva, Krishna tattva, and all the other tattvas along with Krishna tattva, because Krishna is never alone. Krishna is never by himself. So, the mood of servitude is introduced to us right from the very beginning, just by the term devotional service. So there's different types of service, but devotional service means you're a devotee with love and devotion. With love and devotion, you're serving. In the material world, a little bit of a reflection of that, but you barely ever see it. You can see it like a mother to her baby, you know, so much intense attachment and devotion, right? But still, it's not pure. But devotional service is anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam, for Krishna's benefit, favorable for Krishna. That's the unique thing. So, that's our great good fortune, that we've met the pure devotees who are preaching the mission of Lord Chaitanya to give us the opportunity that we can now enter into a life of pure devotional service and relish and taste gradually higher and higher tastes and attraction and developing the inner heart's desire of our Atma. So fortunate. Any comments or questions or discussion?
I like that verse, Chaitanya Dasmi Chaitanya Das. He relishes the position of being a servant more than being God.
Oh yeah. Because in the God conception we just heard, there is superior and inferior. And the behavior is according to that, the position of superior and inferior, right? That's always there in the whole creation. But when the superior takes the position of dedication and devotion to his devotee, then he tastes more than he tastes in being in the superior position and being worshipped. So that's made clear, isn't it, in the 4th chapter, the chapter that Gurudev always highlights and says, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is in the 4th chapter. And that's all about Srimati Radhika's moods and how Krishna wants to taste her moods. So there, in the 4th chapter, it's describing so clearly how Krishna desires to taste that mood of servitude. He understands that without entering into the mood of servitude, like Srimati Radhika, there will be no possibility that I can taste that. So Krishna is always having that desire to become the servant of his devotees. That's always the desire within the Lord's heart. And that's why he wants to come into everyone's heart. But he can only come and sit when the heart is pure and clean, right? Otherwise he can't sit there. He wants to personally come and be in the heart of his devotee. You know? So like when Durvasa Rishi came to the Lord, finally, after trying to get shelter from the Sudarshan Chakra with Brahma, then he went to Shiva, and now he came to Lord Vishnu himself. And what did Lord Vishnu tell him?
My servants have to take shelter of my servants. I can't really...
I'm not independent, he said. I'm not independent of my devotee. My devotee is in my heart and I am in their heart. They know nothing else except for me and I know nothing else except for them. There's 2 verses he speaks there. So he said, if you want to be protected, you have to go to my devotee who you offended. And then he did. And it came, very high speed, straight to the feet of Maharaj Ambarish, who was standing there with his palms folded, doing what? Praying to the Sudarshan Chakra, don't destroy him, don't destroy him. And he begged for forgiveness, and then he glorified Ambarish Maharaj. He said, today I have seen the glories of the servants of the Supreme Lord. Even though I wanted to kill him, he only prayed for my benefit. You see? Srimad Bhagavatam is the story of the Lord's relationship with his devotees. That's why it's called Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, and that's the highest truth. There is no other truth beyond that. Doesn't matter. You can read Vedanta Sutra, you can check out any other philosophical, system, either in the Vedas or just speculative systems. But the ultimate truth is the relationship between the pure devotees and the Lord and their love and affection. That's it. That's the final installment of all the Vedas. Srimad Bhagavatam.
And just how much there for the devotees, please excuse me, the devotees' persistence, is their urgent, earnest desire to give this to us is greater than our resistance to receive it.
Can you say that on the mic? Say that once more.
The earnest, heartfelt desire of the pure devotees, the associates of Srimati Radhika and Krishna, to give this devotion to us is greater than our resistance to receive it.
Yes. And who exemplified that to the topmost degree? Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda, he went directly to the most adverse personalities and gave them his mercy. And the song about Lord Nityananda, that Lord Nityananda goes door to door and he rolls on the ground like a golden mountain. And with tears in his eyes and Trinapeka with a blade of grass, he prays to them, please accept the name of Lord Krishna. Please accept. If you accept the name of Lord Krishna, I will be sold to you. Who can be more extreme than this? Trying to divert the living entities from their illusion in conditioned life.
Srila Srinivas gives the example of, he says Krishna consciousness is very simple. If you want it, you get it. Very simple. For the rest of us, there's Lord Nityananda.
Yes.
He says, no, you must take it.
That's right. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Prem Anande, Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha, Patitanam Bhavane Bhyo Vaishnavi Vinmo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur. Jaya Advaita Acharya, Advaita Acharya, Advaita Acharya, Jaya 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 Advaita Acharya. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhar, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Jiyo Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Vinod Hari Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiyo Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Pranaya. Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namah Pancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. And who taught us how to follow this process? The empowered disciples of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's 6 Goswamis. They taught us. That's what Goswami Askam is telling us. Everything. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Nadivi. They did 1,000 obeisances to the Vaishnavas, to the holy places. They chanted, they became swept up in the waves of Gopi Bhav. So that's our aspiration. One day, right? We keep on doing this little by little. One day, that will come.
Prabhupada said success is assured for the rigid practitioner.
Yeah.